Right, hello. Excuse me. Hello there. Continuing on with the iView Hangout of this old mesh. Needs to be fixed, sorted, finished, done, published. Just get it out of the way and into the catalogue. Because, hang on a second, just testing something. Wrong one. Let's test that on the other one. Yeah, that's okay. Right, so in the last stream, what did we get up to? We got up to basically sorting out these folds. So we're just going to finish off the bottom of this, and then we're going to try and do the nightmare that is going to be weight painting or weighting this. So let's just finish off the mesh. So what can we do here? So let's do something like that, maybe. Yeah, this is going to be an absolute nightmare to weight paint. I suppose ideally that this is where things like Marvelous Designer and using the cloth sim in Blender comes into their own. But the trouble with those things is, particularly the cloth sim for Blender, because obviously it functions in principle like Marvelous Designer, but obviously we don't have anywhere near enough the same sort of or same degree of control over how a mesh forms itself over an avatar. So we can get a sort of an approximation, but not we can get an approximation, but nothing that's particularly accurate in the same way that Marvelous might do it. But then, of course, when we're doing things like this, accuracy relative to physical reality is going to be tricky because we're constrained by the character and how it's going to be restrictive with its movements. not too keen on this universal tool, this thing, the widget, because whilst we've got the arrows, the directional arrows that we can move and grab our selection in any particular direction, we can't. If you grab and fiddle with the middle, with this pale white area in the center, it rotates. It doesn't, unless you can do a shift. That scales. Undo. Back control. Nope. That scales. So that scales and rotates at the same time, but it doesn't translate or move. Which we kind of want with this so yeah, that looks like. So whilst we're doing this, actually, I might as well talk a little bit about, because this is a Hangout, talk a little bit about why there haven't been that many videos. No, let's not do that. Let's so one of the problems with doing videos is that there are only so many ways you can show the fundamentals, because basically, you know, making selections like Alt-click, once you've explained Alt-click to select a loop, there's nothing more you can do that explains it any better, because the function is Alt-click. If you don't Alt-click, you're not loop selecting. So you can only really do one tutorial explaining what Alt-click is. And then once you've done that tutorial, what do you then do with the Alt-clicking? The only thing you can do with the Alt-clicking is to actually do, well, to put it into practice, to actually use it. And of course, that can be used because it's a basic function of making selections, making loop selections. I mean, there's nothing specific that you can do that highlights Alt-click except making something and using the function. But once you've explained it in the initial tutorial or the initial example, the initial show and tell, there literally isn't anything else you can do. So the only thing you can do is just to do meshes to make things and utilize the function whilst you're making those things. But the problem with that is the thing that you are making may not be what the person viewing the videos actually wants to see. And that gets into the messy messy area of making specific videos about making specific things. And of course the problem with that is that you end up chasing your tail, because you're now essentially emphasizing alt-click in a million and different ways. So you could use alt-click to make a tomato, you could use alt-click to make a gun, you could use alt-click to make an item of clothing, as we're doing here. But all of them are explaining alt-click in an infinite number of ways. So from the point of view of tutorial making, once you've done alt-click, there isn't much else you can do to explain alt-click except making videos using alt-click. And that can get quite... what's the one thing that tutorial creators, YouTube streamers, whatever, people that stream things, one of the things that they have a big problem with is burnout. And this is one of the problems with this kind of content production, because if you're not explaining something specific, then do people just randomly watch the creator making random stuff without any expectation as to what it is that they might be in store for? So whilst it's well, yes, okay, let's do. Let's make that a little bit. So that's a very clumsy way of essentially explaining the lack of videos. Is essentially, once you've done the thing that explains the function, using that function, well, creating a tutorial about using that function is redundant once you've done it once, which then has the creator wondering what it is that they're going to do for their next expose or the next tutorial, whatever it is that they're wanting to show on stream. And that is not even without talking about the way that content is curated by platform holders, so YouTube and the rest. That content is created in such curated in such a way that unless you are constantly producing content, the algorithm that promotes your content to your subscribers will ignore you, because it deems that you are either not being productive enough, and or no one on your subscription list, the people that are following you, it deems that they're not interested in the latest thing that you've been doing. So when we as subscribers subscribe to a channel, we are doing so because we want to be in control of what we watch. But the algorithm doesn't work like that. The algorithm thinks that it knows what you need to be notified of. So that feeds into the whole, what do creators create for their videos? Because not only are they now chasing their tails from the point of view of the kind of content that they want to cover. They're also chasing their tails in terms of trying to beat the algorithm. And that is a losing battle. Which is why you end up with a lot of channels posting junk. Essentially, it's just candy. Visual candy to try and break through the algorithm and what the algorithm is thinking subscribers want to see. That looks all right. Let's make this a little bit more. I have to concentrate. That looks okay. And let's just viewpoint right. So we need to make sure that the mesh sits above the ground plane. Doesn't have to be precise, but we need to do it sufficiently enough that we don't result or cause clipping the ground plane in IMVU with the clothing item when it's being used. So that should be okay. Another way of doing that, or instead of going into the front side view, another way of doing that is to just drop in add mesh plane. Where's it? Oh, that's it there. Okay, so that's dropped it in where the cursor is. So let's just change the location of the cursor. And we can just fix its rotation, although that's optional. So the cursor is now down at the feet where it was up here. And what we can do is just snap that object to where the cursor is. So object, snap, selection to cursor. Yeah, so another way of doing this will be just to add a plane at 0, 0, 0 item. So it's added at 0, 0, 0 because that is, or that represents the ground plane, the absolute ground plane, the flat surface of IMVU that the avatar stands above. It doesn't actually stand on it. If we just go into viewport right, we can see that the avatar doesn't actually stand on the ground plane. It stands a little above it, and that's to accommodate the sole of the default avatar's boots or the shoes that they wear. But that's an alternative way of sorting out where something is positioned or located relative to the ground plane. So you can either add a ground plane as an object. Mesh plane. Or we can just go into front, side, left, right, views, and then make adjustments. Whoops. Let's just make sure select the object, shade smooth is so we can now, let's just save this, because what we can now do is save as. We need to fix up the UV map, the texturing. So UV editing, select all. I don't know why Blender does this. Its default is to switch to solid mode instead of texture preview, which you kind of need in order to sort out the UVs. If you can't see the texture on the mesh, how do you know how the UVs are sorting themselves out and being mapped? Right, so let's do so that's all going to be smooshed, so that's the last part that was a functional UV. Let's see how far down that goes. Let's get rid of the avatar, hide. Oh, did we? Oh no, yes we did. So hide. Right, so it's still functional down to that. Right, so there, that's where it starts to go. So select all. I'm going to pin all of these. So I made a selection. So this could be tricky. So we have to unpin, because what it's done, because the so let's just select the whole thing. Right, so originally, as we can see, quite a lot of the UVs were pinned originally. So that's these little red dots. So that's almost the entire UV. So one of the issues that you need to be aware of, mindful of when you are working on a mesh after the fact, is that any additions that you make to the mesh will copy, or it'll propagate the pinning that was associated with the UVs of the mesh section that you are duplicating or extending or extruding. So all of that has to be cleared, and there isn't an easy way of doing that without essentially selecting the entire mesh, selecting everything, and unpinning everything so that it clears all the bad pinned UV. So that's now cleared all of this section. And then reselect, and what we can do is just reselect the UVs that we want to keep pinned and repin them so that we can then work on the additional UVs. So those won't move. So select those, unwrap. Let's just pin those. Pin those. So that's where the extrusion happened. So those are the old UV coordinates. So unwrap. Oops, and we can adjust these as we go. It'll make it a little bit easier from a management perspective. We don't have to worry about clipping through the image right now, because that's what we're actually doing. We're clipping through because of the alignment of the UVs. What we want to do is just get the UVs, just get the UVs roughly in position in terms of their segmentation. So we'll continue on. And then what we can do is straighten them out. So keep going. Pin those. Nose, view, frame selected, pin those, those two are okay, this should be okay as a section. That may be too many UVs to do in one shot, but let's see. No, that's okay. Pin that. So that's now down here. Pin that. Pin that. We might need to put a couple of loop cuts in there, but we'll... Whoops. Oh, what you also want to do is, so if we unwrap these now, let's just do it. It positions them relative to the image. But what we actually want is these UVs to be positioned relative to the continuance of the UV that we are unwrapping, which is which is over here. So make sure your UVs are selected if you are continuing with the UV unwrap. Hold on a second. Pin those. So you can see that we're actually going well outside the mapping of our texture, but we can sort that out in a second. And it's done. So that's the mapping of those new sections. So how do we straighten this out? So let's select the whole UV, because it's basically 3 times as wide as the originals. So let's try this. We can do now, is it scale X0? The wrong one. Scale Y0. There we go. Scale Y0. Never remember which one it is. So what you can do is select a loop. So we're using Alt click again. And if that doesn't select the entire loop, Alt click rather, select the loop, and then Shift Alt click. That selects the continuance. Okay, that's okay. And we can do the same thing again. So that's S for scale, Y, the letter Y to lock the axes, and then 0, which zeros the UVs along the 0 coordinate. So we can do that to all of them. S, Y, 0, S, Y, 0, S, Y, 0. Whoops, but we forgot to include S, Y, 0. Whoops, wrong one. Undo, shift click. S, Y, 0. Right, so there it is. So now we can press, well, because this UV section is so long, we can't see the widget. So what we can do is just select, press the G key, then lock the axes with the X key for left, right, or the Y key for up, down. So G, Y, G, Y, G, Y, G, Y, then G, Y. And that sorts out the UVs. It's a shame there isn't a... Something like this could do with a redistribution. But where you could essentially select end vertices, well, the vertices at either end of a selection, and redistribute relatively evenly the UVs within. Because for something like this, it doesn't necessarily need to be super accurate. Whoops. So it's just a question of, oops, selecting the loops and just having to manually So what we want to check, so this is the end. That's relatively flat. So we just want to select those, do the same thing, so SX0. Just straighten those up a little bit. Don't know how clear that is on the screen, but we can see that as we move the UVs, we're just manually adjusting the distribution. confuse me. So there's a difference. What we want to try and make sure that we do thanks, Poison. No, I'm just working on an old project. And I guess Twitch hasn't updated its... don't know if I can do that on the fly. Hang on, let me just check. They keep changing things so often and so much that... Oh yeah, it does say Minecraft, so let's just do... I don't know if IMVU is... Oh, it is, yes. Oh, of course it is, because I created that category way back when. Number 2... Let's just check... Right, so it should say IMVU now. No, so that's the trouble with streaming to multiple platforms using another service. They change their things so often that they change their settings so often that the streaming services, the third-party stream thingies that you stream through can't keep up with the changes. So whilst you can change your settings within whatever streaming service you're using, it doesn't always update on the actual platform you're streaming to. Yes, well, if you follow me from IMVU, that's JazzCat there. Cat's Bits is just the main channel, all the content's created through. You're another one that's moved to Second Life a while ago. A lot of people are moving to Second Life. Especially with what's gone on recently. So, I mean, you know. If Second Life is where you're making your... Oh, well, you know, making a splash, so to speak. Where your business is, then, you know, fair dinkum, as they say. But you're not the only one. Quite a few people have moved over to Second Life in recent weeks, months, because of the shenanigans that have gone on with IMVU recently. Yeah, so if you don't know, because you haven't been on IMVU for a while, they've changed Yeah, I've not used the voice thing on IMVU. Well, it's a VIP feature anyway now, so you don't have access to voice. Let's just put a loop cut there whilst I remember. You don't have access to voice unless you are VIP, I think. Yeah, so I don't know if you know that IronView has changed the way that they pay creators now, and that's pushed a lot of people away towards Second Life. Because it's created a lot of problems for creators. So they've all essentially they've either moved to Second Life or they're looking at other options, other platforms. Oh yeah, so Cat's Bits obviously is where all the IronView Blender tutorials are and all the other streams that we've been doing over the years. So if you followed, that's probably what you followed for, yeah. But yes, the odd, I've been thinking about this for a while actually, just streaming, doing Minecraft or something, you know, just streaming games. Because if you re-listen to this, the archive of this was talking about this earlier on, just a mini rant, that the problems creators video, where's that UV? So it's that one. Oh, there it is. So content creators have a bit of a struggle producing content because not only are they having to think about the kinds of tutorials or videos etc that they're wanting to produce, they're also having to think about how the algorithm, so how the YouTube algorithm disincentivizes people that have subscribed to their channel. It's like, why would you subscribe? The reason you subscribe to somebody is because you want to watch the videos. That's why you subscribe. But the way that the algorithms work, you wouldn't know that somebody is producing videos and content, regardless of how regularly that might be, because the algorithm deems that you should not be notified of a video or content that's being published by the streamer you are subscribed to, which adds to the creator's stress of what do they stream next? What do I stream next? If I stream this, is the algorithm going to promote it to my subscribers, or is it not going to promote it to the subscribers? The likelihood is that it's not, for whatever reason. So if you've been following for a while and you have not been notified of the videos that have been published, not just by Cat Spirits, but any other streamers that you might be following, you'll have no idea that they've been publishing content. It's not because they haven't been publishing content, it's because the algorithm deems, for whatever reason, that a channel's subscribers should not be notified of the content that they're streaming, which, you know, affects all the other things that they might then stream, because that content creator then thinks that their content is not being seen. Yeah, exactly. So you go a while without seeing any content from the people you subscribe to, and you have to physically go to their channels in order to see that content. And of course, as a content creator, if you didn't know that, you know, it begs the question of what's the point of streaming if your content isn't being seen by anybody because of the way that the algorithm works. Shift. There's a break in there somewhere. Because that, so I need to, yeah, there is. Why is that? I must have done. Let's just fix that. Just check it. No, there isn't a break. Ah, don't know what's going on there. So shift. And it's obviously not just IMVU creators. This has been a long-standing issue with content creators publishing content to YouTube. You know, for whatever reason the algorithm does what it does, it affects everyone. And it's been going on for so long now that this is the reason why you end up with just so much essentially junk on YouTube, because that's the only thing that seems to make a difference to the algorithm is consistency. In other words, you are publishing content frequently enough for the algorithm to deem that your content is worth publishing to your subscribers, which then begs the question, you know, so you get into the argument of, well, what's the point of having the subscription service in the first place? If you're not being notified of your subscriptions, then why subscribe? You know, and what can then happen is that the subscribers blame. Oh, that's going over the shoulder. They then blame the content creator instead of. Whoops, where is that UV? So that's that one. So deselect that. So subscribers then think that the content creator, hey Mohammed, the subscribers then blame the content creator for not publishing content or not notifying them of content. But in the same way that, you know, as with IMVU, creators don't have access to their subscribers. Same with YouTube. We don't have access to the subscribers. Doing very good, Mohammed. We don't have access to our subscribers, so we have absolutely no control over any messages aside from the tools that YouTube gives us. Same with IMVU. We don't have control over our contact with people that are subscribed to us. I don't know if it's the same in Second Life, but I think it's the same. You have, the people that buy your products, you don't have a way of directly contacting them whenever you publish a new product. So how do they know that you've published a product? I mean, in IMVU, they have absolutely no idea. Oh, so you have groups there. Right, so you would still have to rely on, you can put out notices, but you'd still have to rely on people being a member of the group. This is a long UV. Yeah, so even there, you see, you still have to, well, you still don't have direct or indirect access to the people that actually buy your products. They have to actively chase you in order for them to be a member of the group that you can then message and mail them. It's all, I mean, this was one of the biggest gripes that I've always had with IMVU, is the idea that, and it's the same with Second Life, it's just that they all do this, all of them do this. They promote these creative services as businesses or micro businesses. That was the hot topic of the day, was the idea that you could create these micro businesses on these services and earn income. But they're not actually micro businesses at all, because you have no access to the customers, the people that the people that purchase your items. That's not a business. So it's what is it then? Doesn't make any sense. It never makes any sense, because at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's not about providing you a platform to create a business. It's about you being part of the platform. I've used Second Life, all the new ones that are coming out, and you working to generate income for them, for the business, for the the service. So I've used Second Life and all the new ones, because they can't have creators. I mean, you could make the argument that there's degrees of liability involved in there, in allowing, for intents and purposes, one group of creators, one group of users, that is the creators, having direct access to another group of users, that is your customers. What sort of liability is there? Maybe that's why they don't do it, because they don't want to open themselves up to that sort of liability. Let's just hide this plane. Where's the home button? Home. No, it's not. Which one is it? It's that one. Let's hide that. So that's the... I think we'll call it quits here for today, in the next few minutes or so. But in the next one, the next stream, what we'll try and do is wrangle this. Unhide female. We're going to have to try and wrangle this and get it weight painted to the avatar so that it deforms. But what we've done so far is just finish off the toilet paper wrap, giant wrap. I mean, there's more we could have possibly done with this, but it's questionable whether it's then worth just, I mean, how you would do this in Marvelous Designer, or as we said earlier, as we were talking about earlier, Marvelous Designer, or using Blender's cloth physics. Yeah, so as Poison is saying, some of the so relative to our conversation, so some of the creators on Second Life have gone unhinged on customers on many different platforms, so it would be rough with direct access. Yes, and which feeds into the point that we're making. So maybe they don't want creators, the micro business owners, having direct access to the customers because there's no liability there. There's no liability in terms of behavior between creator business and the creator's customers, which services like Second Life, IMVU, and all the rest of them, Roblox, even Roblox is probably exactly the same. You know, the reason that they don't give you direct access to your customers is because they can't open themselves up to that liability. Because creators don't have liability. You know, the micro business owners don't have any liability. Let's just save this. Save as 12. Yeah, so in the next stream, I think we'll call it quits there on the actual mesh itself. I might do a little bit of tweaking because this is still a bit angular. So I might just do another pass over the mesh just to make it smoother, because we added a bit more structural detail here to accommodate the wraps that isn't necessarily reflected in the rest of the mesh. So we might have to just add a few more loops here and there. To round these corners off in particular, but also to accommodate what we may need to, that is going to be a big challenge, is as we kind of roughly briefly touched on in the last stream. So the avatar is basically structured in a grid, and it'll be the same for Second Life as well, or any other services. They will have made their meshes, air quotes, properly, but what we've done with this cloth, this wrap, is that we've actually made it in a way where the UVs, not the UVs, the mesh structure is non-axial to the avatar. So that means that we've now got a diagonal grid that we're then, so let's just do this. So where this crosses, we have our vertices, and we're now having to try and match those, or we will have to match those to an axial grid. So, you know, we've got correspondence with that one, maybe that one, well, it'd be on the other side here. But the faces themselves, so broken down into triangles, the mesh structure might be like that. But in this case, the diagonals might actually be like this, which changes the behavior of the mesh when it comes to articulation. If they are horizontal splits, horizontal, that might not be an issue, but if they're vertical, it will. That'll be a pain. Might have to do some edge rotation. So, for example, this face, this particular face here, the edge, the diagonal edge that makes the face, has two ways of orientating itself. If it goes horizontally, that'll be okay. If it goes vertically, that's going to be a problem for deformation. So we have to keep an eye out for that when we start weight painting objects like this to an avatar, to ensure that it articulates and deforms properly when the avatar moves. So that'll be what we'll do in the next stream. Let's just save over that again. So yeah, we'll call it quits here and continue this in another stream. But thanks very much, Poison Ivy, for the conversation. That was oh, blimey, that's 6 a.m. Yep. So thanks for lurking, lurkers. Thanks for watching, Poison Ivy and Mohammed, and commenting. And hopefully we'll see you on the next stream. So bye for now.